Hello, everyone, and welcome to District Life. I'm Lisa D.
And I'm Larry Brown Jr. We here at DCTV believe that communities are enriched when people are empowered to share their unique voices. Here's a few of them on today's show.
Accessibility in DC, a story about a festival that the Kennedy Center hosted in which all of the performers were deaf.
Also, how a food blogger on Instagram and TikTok is encouraging her fellow foodies to support Black-owned businesses in the district.
And later, we'll tell you how one artist is mixing go-go with activism.
You know, we live in a world where so many of us are different in so many ways. And if we just learned a bit more about each other, we can gain a better understanding. And I can tell you, I learned a lot by watching this next piece on the recent Deaf Enlightenment and Arts Festival, which has the DEAF acronym, if you couldn't tell.
It was recently held at the Kennedy Center, and as you're about to see, there are great dancers, artists, DJs, and storytellers who are all a part of DC's deaf population.
We are celebrating the deaf experience. It's the Deaf Enlightenment and Arts Festival. I know individuals have misconceptions about deaf performers and think that there are limits on what those performers can do. But if someone comes to this event, they will see a wide variety of talent showcased. And of course, I want everyone to leave the event and know that deaf people can do anything that they'd like to do. They just can't hear. They can also showcase their talent and skills for everyone here.
So we at the Kennedy Center are committed to normalizing the variance in humans, be it bodies, skin tone, preferences, all of it. We want to normalize it all because that is normal. In addition to that, the Kennedy Center is committed to artistic excellence. So the premise behind this festival and all of them are to honor and celebrate our differences and our incredible artistry.
Deaf people, we sleep like a rock. We're knocked out. Even though outside the dogs can be barking, the cat is meowing, the police, woo, gunshots and fist fights, trucks and fire trucks are driving past, but we are sound asleep.
Now, what did I just say? No, I didn't say I love you. I said all of you. Ha 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 ha.
Most people don't know what a deaf person can do, right? You don't have any concept of what deaf artists can actually do. Deaf people enjoy music just as those who aren't deaf. A lot of deaf people may not be able to hear the music, but they can still follow the music, right? Of course, interpreters are used for access in some cases, but also not only relying on those interpreters, no. Deaf people would like to have that direct form of communication, making eye contact as an audience member who is deaf with a deaf performer.
The Kennedy Center is the National Performing Arts Center, and we have an obligation, I think, that is elevated even more so because of having that role, to not only talk about being accessible, but to live being accessible. It is about making sure that people have access to culture and that cultural rights, which are embedded in our human rights legislation, are available to everybody.
And so I want individuals who are not part of the community to realize that there is a community of artists and that we can also collaborate with those artists.
Oh my, some great performances there.
It came to life.
Down.
I was ready to move myself with them. It was really good. It was really good.
Absolutely. In a world of hashtags, trends, and virals, how do universities and professors deal with emerging technologies while training a new generation of storytellers? Larry sat down with the Dean of Communications from American University to find out. That's next after the break.
I'm Jackie, the Master Control Coordinator at DCTV. In addition to my work at DCTV, I'm also an attorney, which is the career I had before coming to DCTV. In the words of Congressman Alcee Hastings, all lives can't matter unless Black lives matter. The framers of the Constitution did not intend to include people of African descent, indigenous people of this land, and women as citizens of the United States of America. Over time, the Constitution was amended, treaties were formed, and laws were adopted to address this exclusion. Unfortunately, hatred and bigotry still pervades in every aspect of American life. The recent uprising of citizens of elevated consciousness of every race, sex, religion, socioeconomic, and educational backgrounds was triggered by the continuous killing of Black people by police. The issue of police brutality against Black people is not a new one. What is different today is that ordinary people are now equipped with the technology to become citizen journalists and record what is going on at the hands of the police. The world is able to see the disparity and brutality firsthand. And we are seeing that this is a global pandemic, no different than COVID-19. Black people are being killed disproportionately and unnecessarily at the hands of the police. I came to DCTV over 20 years ago because this is an organization that gives the community and me the opportunity to exercise our First Amendment right to free speech. The same passion that I have for justice inspires me to do the work that I do at DCTV. I have a voice, I have a story. I am DCTV.
Our next guest, Sam Fulwood III, has accomplished a lot in his life. He is the new Dean of the School of Communication at American University, right here in Northwest Washington, D.C. He is also a longtime journalist and was even part of a team with the LA Times that won the Pulitzer Prize back in the 1990s. Here's what we talked about when I sat down to chat with him. We're joined here on District Live by American University's Dean of the School of Communications, Mr. Sam Fulwood III. Sam, how are you today?
So happy to be with you today, Larry. This is wonderful.
As a journalist for many years, there were so many important stories you worked on. But is there one story that sticks out in your head more than others?
People ask me that all the time, and it's like trying to decide which one of your babies that you favor more than the other if you had a million babies. I mean, I don't remember all the stories that I have written. But if forced to think about, it wouldn't be a single story, it would be sort of a set of stories. In 1985, I was asked by the Baltimore Sun to open a bureau in apartheid South Africa. And that probably had some of the most profound impact on me of any of the stories that I ever worked on.
From your perspective as Dean of AU's School of Communications, it's clear that technology is having a profound effect on journalism as we know it. What are some of the ways that your program is adapting?
You know, Larry, the technology is changing everything about how we live. The students who are in our school are native to the technology in a way that many older gray-haired people like me are not. So I'm really learning from the students in terms of the technology. What I think we have to offer here at American University and in the School of Communication in particular is the judgment and the wisdom that goes with these emerging forms of technology. And so we're placing a real emphasis on things like ethics and accuracy and being able to have media literacy so that it doesn't really matter whether you're using a laptop or you're on your telephone or whether it's TikTok or whatever the technology is, you got to have the underpinning values and logic and sense to be able to use that in an effective way.
Let's pivot a moment and talk specifically to DC, someone who has seen DC evolve over the years as a journalist and just as a person. What are some of the big changes you've seen?
I'm not from DC, but I've spent almost the entirety of my professional career in DC. And it used to be that if you were a journalist, it didn't get any better than coming to Washington. This was where the seat of power is, perhaps the most powerful city in the world. And every journalist wanted to be able to cover the machinations of Congress, or what was happening at the White House, or the behind the scenes at the State Department. I don't think that's the case anymore. And I think what we mentioned a minute ago about technology has diffused the streams of information so that the aspiring journalist doesn't have to be physically in Washington. And as a result, Washington has changed.
As a writer, you've covered the gentrification issue and its complexities. It surely deserves more time, but can you briefly describe the spectrum of the meaning of the word gentrification and any thoughts on how gentrification has affected DC?
That's an excellent question, Larry. I tend to take the view that gentrification is a part of the natural progress of a community, or a natural part of the processes that occur in a capitalistic society. Money turns over, and as it turns over, it changes whatever is being touched by that money. And what we have seen in Washington is certain neighborhoods, disproportionately historically African American, have been touched by money, and as a result, the character and the nature of those neighborhoods have changed.
So, what are some of the ways that we can positively address the issue of gentrification in DC?
I think that it is incumbent upon policymakers to, as they improve communities, not displace the people. And also, I think that it is incumbent upon the people who live in communities to recognize that the things that they are attracted to, the culture and the sensibilities of those communities, there's a reason to sort of want to keep some of that character there.
All right, so on a lighter note, I heard that you are a pretty great blues guitarist. I'm not gonna allow you to downplay it either. Own it, it's yours, all right?
Well, you heard half of it.
Half of it, all right.
Heard half of it. I play blues guitar. The
Okay.
great part is the part that you got wrong. I've been playing guitar since I was about 14. And I'm about as good as I was when I started playing at 14.
Sam Fulwood III, thank you so much for joining us here today on District Life. We appreciate you for your time, and we look forward to seeing what you're going to do at American University.
Thank you all so much.
Wow, what an amazing guy. And he's so accomplished.
Super accomplished. I loved having that conversation with him, and I was hoping he would add some Muddy Waters in there, give me some kind of riff on the side of his office.
Yes. The Dance Institute of Washington is also teaching its students quite a bit. The Pre-Professional Dance Equity Organization supports students from underserved communities. Take a look.
My name is Kahina Haynes, and I proudly serve as the Executive Director here at the Dance Institute of Washington. We have been operating DIW for now over 30 years. And in that time, of course, the model has evolved and changed, but the gist of it remains the same: to advance equity and representation in this industry. When we think about impact here at Dance Institute, it goes beyond just the number of dance classes we're able to provide. We think of it more in terms of the impact of that dance training itself and how that goes on to transfer longitudinally into the lives of our students and families. So what you'll find is that students that have the opportunity to train in a pre-professional setting also get to build strong peer-to-peer relationships. They get to build strong peer-to-adult relationships. They get stronger senses of community. They get safety, place, permanence. They get health benefits, right? There's so much that is transitively and tangentially connected to this art form, and that's what we think about when we think about impact. So DIW, having served, for example, over 40,000 students in the last 3 decades, is more than just students having access to class. It's about the impact that is experienced from what those class opportunities and those training opportunities yield.
My story is pretty unique. I began my pre-professional training at DIW, and I had the opportunity to train under our late founder and artistic director, Fabian Barnes. And it really changed my life, and it changed my perspective in just the dance industry at large. It's really about being authentic and saying, how do you take your life experiences and put it in the studio to learn and train? It's a level of discipline, and sometimes you don't even get that in the education setting. Schools are changing, so we're trying to do the work to prepare them for life.
DIW has really been a founding part of my life. It's given me so many tools. When I first got here, I didn't know not one thing about ballet. I'm very happy of how I turned out from when I first got here to now, because I can really see a process and a progress, and I really want to continue that for the future.
I really love dance because it's like a form of movement where I'm kind of shy most of the time, so I'm not really good at talking a lot. But through dance, I'm able to like express and share my emotions and really like speak with the audience. Yeah, it's my dream to be a professional dancer. I'm trying to train here and work hard so that I can become an actual dancer in the future.
I can't wait for all that DIW is going to be able to continue to do, not just, again, for our students, but also for the community more broadly.
And DIW's social justice impact went viral in 2020 when the students performed on Black Lives Matter Plaza as much of the country marched for racial justice.
Did you know that under the busy streets of the district lies an artistic hub?
This abandoned trolley station under the neighborhood of Dupont Circle, known as Dupont Underground, was first made into a food court before it was repurposed into an art space in 2016. The spot is a hub for creativity through on-site arts production, performance, and exhibition. Local artists have begun transforming the tunnels into installations, including pieces that incorporate light and sound with the acoustics of the tunnel.
Dupont Underground is a versatile and ever-changing space where the public can create, interact, and deepen its cultural knowledge.
Cult classics have given us memorable lines such as "Show me the money" and "Hasta la vista, baby." Carmen went out into the district to quiz people about some other memorable quotes.
You ready for this? Right. First one. It's just a flesh room. The film came out in 1975. It is a comedy.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Monty Python.
Monty Python.
Look at that. I'm in a glass case of emotion. Will Ferrell, comedy.
Oh, is it like the one where he got that little box and he's trying to find happiness or whatever?
Ron Burgundy. What is the movie?
Anchorman?
Yes. Look at you. Great or good, I'm your wife. I'm the greatest good you're ever going to get.
The Incredibles?
The Incredibles.
Incredibles?
There you go. It is The Incredibles. There we go. It's like I have ESPN or something.
Parent Trap?
No, she had red hair.
Oh, I know this one.
That is the great classic by Tina Fey, Mean Girls.
Yes. I'm about to do to you what Limp Bizkit did to music in the late 90s. Starring Ryan Reynolds.
La La Land?
Ryan Reynolds. Oh. It was right before he opened a can of you know what.
What is it? It's like a musical.
What is that one? No, I've got it.
Deadpool?
Deadpool. There you go. It's not a man purse. It's called a satchel. Indiana Jones wears one. 2009.
I don't know, but it's not even a satchel. It's called a merce.
I was gonna say 100 Day, like Last Days of Summer. What's it? But it's not that.
No.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I can't think of it.
Can't think of it? They're in a hotel. They're in Las Vegas. The Hangover.
Oh.
I feel comfortable using legal jargon in everyday life. Someone cat calls the actress. I object. 2001.
That is Legally Blonde.
Oh, Legally Blonde.
There you go. There you go.
You didn't have to even tell me the person. I just knew it. That's okay. Reese Witherspoon, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my my goodness, that was incredible. I love Carmen's segments. Now, did you get any of those lines?
I got every single one of them.
I only got a couple. All right, now my favorite is, are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Marcus, darling.
Oh, that's Eartha Kitt Boomerang.
Oh, you
I got that.
it.
Here's one for my children.
Okay.
Mufasa. Ooh, say it again, say it again, say it again. Mufasa, Mufasa, Mufasa. Ooh,
The Lion King.
You got it, you got it. It means no worries for the rest of your days.
That's right.
Hakuna Matata.
Coming up, more arts and culture in and around DC, including how one artist is keeping the district's famous go-go beat alive. Stay with us.
And I noticed how music was the glue and how it brought people together no matter what you look like. I noticed how disenfranchised my community was with politics and how I needed to use the culture, pop culture, and music to engage them and motivate them, essentially.
Are you looking for lower energy rates or renewable energy sources like solar and wind? DC Power Connect can help. District Energy customers can now shop online at dcpowerconnect.com for their energy supplier. DC Power Connect is an online tool that gives DC consumers the power to choose the right energy plan for them. Visit dcpowerconnect.com and find out how you can shop for your energy today. DC Power Connect, your energy, your choice.
The restaurant industry spends billions in advertising every year, but when a local blogger or social media influencer snaps a picture of the merchandise, the reward is priceless.
In this series, content producer Rebecca Burnett gives us a taste of how the area's food bloggers are highlighting DC's tastiest establishments with a tap and a post, and how their breakfast, lunch, and dinner cravings influence how we see the world around us, starting with the account Black Girls Eat DC.
Businesses must really, really love having this be attention. Is it good?
This is Cornelia. She's the creator of Black Girls Eat DC. What started as this foodie's foray into blogging with a couple of friends has turned into her tasty side hustle, which is supported by over 10,000 Instagram followers. Up next on Cornelia's long list of small businesses to try is Don Juan on Mount Pleasant Street. We're catching up over pupusas and the family platter, complete with chicken, beef, shrimp, and buffalo wings with a side of avocado and cheese.
So I'm not a food critic. I don't even cook. I started doing this because I love food. I'm a very strict budgeter, but I would always leave space to go out on the weekends. That was my luxury. And maybe 3 years or so ago, I was really excited about just kind of having a different way to grow my professional experience. So I work in communications full time, and I wanted to be able to experiment without messing with my day job. I decided some sort of a personal blog would be the way to do that, and food was a no-brainer, and that's kind of how I got started.
So last summer, you wrote an op-ed around a little bit after George Floyd's murder and all the protests that were happening, and you noticed that there was a spike in support for Black-owned businesses. And you said that you hoped that it would continue after the summer when the protests had faded. What have you noticed since last summer?
Yeah, I think the support is still there. I would say that in this area, it's a pretty liberal area, honestly. And so I do think that people are still interested in keeping up with Black-owned products, Black-owned restaurants, Black-owned businesses. I actually don't know when he started it, but there's this young guy named KJ who started Black Food Fridays, and I don't know if he started it before the pandemic and the protests or after, but that kind of momentum, and him kind of having that platform has definitely helped keep it up, and people being conscious to spend their money at a, not even just Black-owned, but any minority-owned place during the week at some point.
And one other thing you wrote in that op-ed was that a lot of the attention in the food blogging industry goes to white people.
Yeah.
Why is it also important for people to kind of go out of their way to also maybe look at who's behind the food blogs and make sure they're supporting kind of a wide array of people?
Those of us who are smaller, as we tend to work more as well with smaller businesses, because we're okay with not accepting money to feature them. We'll do it because we want to, we'll do it because we're trying the food, and that's not their fault, but a lot of time the bigger your platform is, you need to make money from it, and so that doesn't give you the freedom and the flexibility to go to small places and just feature something just because you like it. I know for myself that I follow Asian food bloggers because even though I love like pan-Asian food, I don't know where the best Vietnamese versus the best Japanese versus the best Korean food versus the best Thai or Laotian food is. And if you just pointed me to some random Asian restaurant, I know that the flavors are different, but I can't put my finger on it the way that someone else will be able to because they come from those cultures. So I think that's very important as to why you would want to follow different people and get different perspectives as you're deciding how to open up your own palette and explore the world more.
You can follow Cornelia at Black Girls Eat DC.
Go-Go is the soundtrack of the city. The bounce beat is one that is known around the Beltway.
The master of ceremonies of Go-Go's Renaissance is Justin Yadia Johnson, an activist and artist focused on merging culture with politics. Let's hear what he's done for the district in this week's Ward Warrior.
What inspired me to start Mochella is when I started realizing what was going on in the city and how the culture was starting to, the pride behind the culture was starting to diminish. So that's what drew me to start mobilizing with Mochella. I led a protest in front of the White House for 180-something nights, pretty much speaking out against the corruption in federal politics. The protest was very theatrical. You know, it wasn't like your typical call and response or like with bullhorns or whatever, you know, people outside chanting. We actually uplifted these methods of, you know, using music and all these things to show our dissent. And I noticed how music was the glue and how it brought people together no matter what you look like. I noticed how disenfranchised my community was with politics and how I needed to use the culture, pop culture and music to engage them and motivate them essentially. The power of go-go music is unfathomable, which is what I've always known just through my experience in the go-go world and the thought that I have when I go out of town, like telling someone like, yo, you will never understand go-go until you experience it. I don't see the culture being displayed a lot throughout the city or as it once was. I see it more commemorated with murals. So it's just being sold as like these certain neighborhoods or spaces, but you don't really see the actual culture there. So that's why I feel like Mochella is so unique. DC always been a very prideful place. I always had very special indigenous people, you know what I mean? It's very, natives very special. So I'm here to update politics essentially. I think I've been a huge catalyst for more of the community paying attention to what's going on in the city. Like I say, anything possible, man, yada yada for May 2022.
What an inspiring way to bring back some flavor to the city.
Absolutely.
On the next episode of District Life, we'll take a walk down memory lane with Congressman Eleanor Holmes Norton, her accomplishments over the decades, and her unwavering push for DC statehood.
When you get this close, I can feel it, see it.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of District Life. Tell us what you thought about today's show by finding us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at YourDCTV.
And if you know someone in your neighborhood who's doing extraordinary things, they could be featured on one of our episodes. Be sure to send us their story on social media. We'll see you next time.
All right, here's one for you. Okay. Let it go, let it go. What's that from?
Frozen.
You got it. Okay,
Hello.
good.
Yes,
All right,
I
cool.
have kids in the family.
What about this one?
And okay,
that boy good.
Oh, Coming to America.
You got it.
Yes,
you got it. Good,
yes,
good.
yes.
All right, cool.
All right, let me think of one. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's on the tip of my tongue. King Kong ain't got nothing on me.
Denzel Washington. Training Day.
Yay!
Training Day. All right, good.
All right.